Good afternoon, good morning, good time of day to everyone who's coming on in. Welcome to the Sick of This show. It's a little later in the morning than normal, but wanted to account for Sherrod so that he had time. He's at a busy point in his schedule with schooling and with finals and exams and end of semester stuff coming up. And I totally get that. So, like, I've been there before. So glad we could reschedule a little bit today to have you on, man.
Yeah.
I know I saw you yesterday um, while we were on Banner and Backbone for the window of discussion, but I wanted to have you back um, to continue that talk and pick people's minds in the chat too. Pick your mind,
Yeah.
but pick people's minds in the chat too for people who might want to weigh in on 20 year and 20-month strategy planning and what's the difference, why it's important, why we need to do both, and why maybe 20 years is too short for a time frame for what we need.
Yeah.
And so Stephanie Wilson is spitballing an idea that I want to take like as hard as we can is the Tricentennial Action Group, or TAG, You're It for Democracy, will be our slogan. Is so. Good morning, Shane. Welcome in the chat, my friend. Good morning, everyone, as you come on in. So, shared with that in mind, with the Tricentennial Action Group TAG, You're It for Democracy in mind. What do you think, man? How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad I didn't miss this important discussion on the distinction between 20-month plans and 20-year plans and long-term versus short-term. I'm doing well today. Just very, very happy to be here. Happy to
Good.
get in.
Good. I'm glad to have you here. So I wanted to first let's hit some key pieces of the new things that are in the news today because you
Yeah.
guys just put out an article
Oh, yeah.
not too long ago this morning that I restacked and requoted twice now because I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Is the one about um, Donald Trump saying that we should hang the seditious traitors that are the Democrats for checking notes of telling service members to follow their oath of commission or enlistment, because both outline not following illegal orders and that your duty is to the Constitution over party. It's to country over party. Um, and how do we go on offensive for that? For taking the narrative, which is part of defining a 20-month plan, um, and how we achieve by mid early 2027, I guess, roughly 20 months from now, is how do we achieve before the end of this presidency is supposed to be over a new regime or a new presidency or a new Congress that actually does something and a new Supreme Court and laws that care about people, compared to, hang Democrats for having the gall to say somebody should follow their oath.
Yeah. So, today, just for a little bit more background, there was a joint video from Democratic lawmakers with military and intelligence backgrounds who urged service members to refuse illegal orders. And then Trump basically posted a message, like Nick was saying that they are having it's seditious behavior and it's punishable by death. He's reposting Truth Social posts that said that we should hang those Democratic lawmakers. Just absolutely atrocious behavior from a sitting president.
Yeah.
But something we have to acknowledge is that we can't let this type of behavior that we know from Donald Trump. We know that this is how he works. It's that attack, 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 defend, 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 never tell the truth. These lies, we have to make sure that this doesn't stop us in our resistance movements. And we have to create our own goals that stop and get away from this atrocious behavior from Donald Trump.
No, I like how you frame that, is get away from their narrative and frame it in our narrative. And that doesn't always mean responding too much to things like this. Like, we're responding to this just to make sure everybody knows Donald Trump said this. It's stupid. The Democrats are not treasonous or seditious by telling service members to follow their oath of a commission or enlistment. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Moving on. There are more important things that Donald Trump has done that are treasonous, in my opinion. And proving treason is very hard and very difficult, but part of proving treason is shifting public opinion to acknowledge that treason has happened, and defining what treason is. And I think part of the next 20 months has to be defining treason in the modern day. And how does that apply to a sitting or past president? Doesn't have to be just for Trump. This is not just about Trump. This is about protecting and securing a long lasting democracy, a tricentennial action group for 50 years from now. When we hit 2076, we are at our 300-year mark as a democracy with a much more robust system. So I want to get your thoughts a little bit about that, on the idea of defining treason. Should we be using words like that? What type of impact do using words like that have to you? If I tell you I think somebody has committed treason, what does that mean to you compared to what I just defined, what could possibly be treasonous, or as we will discuss, what I think are treasonous acts?
Yeah, I think that this is another, long-term goal. Public opinion is such a crucial part of this, and I think it's a crucial part because we want to know how this is going to reflect in the history books, right? Which is a long-term goal, and we have to highlight that we follow the rule of law, and Donald Trump and his administration don't. And that highlights it right there. That defines what treason really is. And I was thinking about this. I was talking in a comparative politics class about how a Nuremberg style trials would go for this administration and Donald Trump. And I thought of the idea of, we need to make sure that what has happened is able to be seen as this has happened. I think a lot of people's public perception on January 6th, or what Donald Trump has done deflecting and disobeying court orders, a lot of people that are in the MAGA sphere don't believe that happened. Future goal wise, I would like to see, and this is just a hypothetical, I would like to see possibly having them explain that these instances have happened, or testify that they have happened, so that we're all in the same boat. My professor basically said, if we offered Trump a pardon to admit that he had something to do with January 6th, so that we all were cohesively in the same boat that this actually genuinely happened, what would that do for the state of the country? And what would that do for our headspace when it comes to Donald Trump and this administration?
That's a great question. And I think we need to answer it soon. I think part of a 2-month plan is answering that question soon. What is treason, and how do we ensure that anti-constitutional acts are punished and held accountable for the actions? And what does that mean? Part of that is, obviously, there needs to be an accountability agenda for whoever's running. And if you're running for office, whatever party you run in, Democratic, Republican, non-committed party, fourth party, whatever the fuck party, unless it's Green Party, because I know you're Russian trolls, Jill Stein, stay the fuck out of our political system. Go the fuck away, Jill Stein.
Seriously.
God, she's the worst. We have pictures of you dining with Putin. Just go away. But first I want to define treason. And I want to define it through the Constitution. So Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, and what treason actually is. Because I think taking that message and looking at the heart of treason doing a little bit of a civics lesson here, is what is treason and how does that apply to short-term goals such as impeachment? Do you need to impeach the president to convict them of treason? Do you need to impeach a lawmaker or a Supreme Court justice or just a judge or just somebody who has committed treason who isn't, or who is in office, not isn't in office, someone who's in office? What is the mechanism for removal? And do we have one in the near term that's available to us? Because there's really not, in a lot of ways, for immediate removals and things like that. But I think we have to ask bold questions on how do we achieve those immediate removals, so that we can have new elections and seats are filled and traitors are not in power. So I'm going to hand over the floor to you here in a second after I define treason. And I want to get your thoughts on the first question I have, which is, do we have to be at war for someone to commit treason? So first, I'm going to read Article 3, Judicial Branch, Section 3, Treason. Clause 1, meaning, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. So that's the meaning of treason. And there's a reason I said the commas, because when it comes to constitutional law, they like to be super specific about where the fuck they put commas. And so we have to use their framing in this one, because the Supreme Court justices are the ones who would rule in the end on whether somebody committed treason. And we know the Supreme Court is fucking bought, sold, and disgusting as shit. So using their terminologies and things, I ask you, just from that definition, do you believe that treason needs to be committed in a time of war? Do we have to actively have a war declared by Congress for an act to be considered treasonous?
Like for the president to be considered treasonous?
Any of them.
Yeah.
The president, Speaker of the House, let's say.
Yeah, I would say no.
A former congressman from Florida.
Yeah. I would say no, because it says shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies.
And let me pull it up on the screen too, so people can see the text.
So this is
what I'm showing.
This is the Constitution of the United States right here. So it says only in levying war or in adhering to their enemies. I would argue that Donald Trump's conflict of interest with Saudi Arabia would be treasonous. Like we could define treason as adhering to enemies or someone that doesn't have the best interests of the United States. You could say that the economic failures and imposing tariffs on the country, taxes on imports, would be treasonous. You are raising prices for the consumer. You could say that raising Medicaid, not extending ACA subsidies, would be treasonous. You could say so many things that are happening in this Trump administration is treasonous to the low-income individuals, marginalized people across the country. He's committing treason on immigrants that are coming into this country and for a better life, for the pursuit of better work, for better opportunities because of weather in their countries, and they are being. They're coming into legally as well. U.S. citizens are being berated and attacked on the streets. That's treasonous. So I don't think it's in levying war. I think it's the comma section where it says in adhering to their enemies. It's the enemy of the people, and you could say that the enemy of the people is a person, or you could say that it's economic failures. You could say that it's ICE.
Specifically, it's not the enemy of the people. It's the enemy of the Constitution.
Yeah.
When they talk about treason. And this, I make sure I learn that subtle difference from Judge Ludig, who is a conservative law judge or justice, However, he's also a hyper fundamentalist or foundationalist, not a fundamentalist, a foundationalist for the constitutional system. And I'm trying to use different words than conservative or progressive on this because he's a foundationalist. A constitutionalist is that poisoned word that they
Yeah.
talk about, but he believes in the structure of the Constitution and the
Yeah.
importance of the document and what it can give us.
And I guess
Um,
what I meant was, the Constitution protects the people, so it's the enemy of
yeah,
the Constitution that directly affects the people,
yeah,
and so when you're hurting the people and the people are protected under the Constitution, technically it's the enemy of both the people and the Constitution, vice versa. And so I would say that in that little section or adhering to their enemies, that enemy would be the enemy of the Constitution or the people. Yeah.
yeah. And I also think that just reading it, there is no statement that the U.S. itself has to be in a declared state of war.
No.
And I think that's very important because most people say, or a lot of people are from the school of thought that treason can only happen during war. Well, using modern examples, let's say you have a hypothetical president who is hypothetically a witting or unwitting um, spy or asset. At this point, he would be more or less a witting asset. Like he wanted the money, he needed the funds, he got the acclaim, he got everything he wanted. He was a witting aid to the Russian undermining of our U.S. government. Russia has declared a war against us. We're not openly declared war against Russia, however. And so I don't think a hypothetical president, actually a real life president, who is very realistically a national security threat because he is selling documents. He is willing to just sell secrets. He likes money, and Putin and Russia used him to create a puppet. And he is levying war against the American people.
Yeah.
And I think we can easily argue that taking food benefits away, killing Americans because you don't want to feed them, starving your citizenship is levying war and or aiding and comforting your enemies. Like you are weakening your national security interests. He took away all the internal CI counterintelligence units, and they're now performing border security, and they have done 33% less about or less sex trafficking work and investigations. So we are less safe because of that.
Yeah.
He is aiding and abetting every time he lets such as Putin land in Alaska and have the red carpet rolled out for him. Putin's a war criminal and is murdering is murdering innocent civilians to an allied nation. That's an enemy. That is the enemy of the Constitution. That is the enemy of our people. We have chosen to stand with our allies as a people, the Ukrainian people. We as the people are choosing to stand with Ukraine. Whether our government likes it or not, that is the national opinion, is to stand with Ukraine. And anytime he prevents missiles from being sent to, or he inhibits and puts Zelensky on 2-week taco notice and doesn't do anything to help and allows people to die innocently, if the American people say loudly enough that is aiding and abetting or aiding and comforting our enemy, that is treason. We are the arbiters of truth in America, the citizens, not these small, tiny group of people. And I would say things like also ICE. What are your thoughts in terms of ICE or DHS in a larger sense right now? I know there are some useful and good components of DHS, such as the Coast Guard, which should probably just move under the Department of Defense. But what do you think about the use of ICE against American citizens, and just racially profiling
Yeah.
while doing these other destabilizing events. Do you think those would be considered possibly levying war or aiding and comforting our enemies?
Yeah, 100%. ICE now has the largest budget of any enforcement agency, bigger than the FBI, bigger than the DEA. Like, of course, of course. I mean, ICE is literally attacking U.S. citizens. I would consider that waging war against the people. Also, Trump did declare war on American cities. So it's like it's out of the question, because he has said these things publicly. Like
Yeah,
he has said he is levying war against American citizens, against U.S. cities, against Democratic lawmakers. He's literally reposting posts on Truth Social saying we should hang Democratic lawmakers. I would say that's levying war. I would say that's levying war.
at this point, yeah, because Democratic lawmakers have been assassinated this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, who was it? Melissa Hartman out of
yeah,
Minnesota
mhm,
was assassinated this year. Her and her husband and their dog.
yeah.
And the Republican progressive group
They
cheered it
laughed
on,
about it.
laughed
They laughed
about it,
about it on Twitter.
and encouraged this type of behavior.
Yeah,
Donald Trump's words this morning are an encouragement of this type of behavior. Yeah, Melissa Hartman or Hortman, sorry, her husband and their dog just murdered in their house, and a sitting legislator was laughing about it.
yeah.
Like, it's disgusting,
And I want to
and it's
mention, sorry,
yeah,
I want to mention that when we talk about these things, this feels more like, I mean, we know how hard it is to get stuff done in the United States. That shouldn't stop us from trying and doing the best we possibly can to get things done. But we saw from the last impeachment on Donald Trump that he wasn't convicted. And
no,
so trying to do something about it right now is difficult when we could be focusing on the attainable actions to get to a 20-year goal where we can prosecute, where we can have those Nuremberg style trials on this administration. We have to fill up the gap that the government is not filling
I don't
in
think we
order to
can
get
wait
there.
20 years though for
No,
that type of
of
goal.
course not. I just mean like long term, a long
Yeah,
term goal. We can't wait 20 years, but it is more of a we can't. I don't think that we're going to have the ability to get this done in 20 months. We should do our best to get to the point where we have a long term plan where we can get there. And
yeah.
and that's why it's good to think about these things. And I think having these conversations now is important. But yesterday, and I might go a little long here. Yesterday, we had a conversation about the election system, about multi-party politics, and I might be switching course a little bit, but I think it's
Oh
all
no, this is great. This is great.
for the great topic of this discussion. We were talking about multi-party politics and the why can't we? And I think it's a good thing to answer because the why can't we happens to do with the how. We are under a system that constrains us from having a multi-party system, and it's not illegal to do in the United States. We have multiple parties. We have many parties in the United States. It's just the system doesn't allow them to prosper in the way that we want them to prosper. To do something like changing the whole electoral system in the United States, which takes so long to do anything because we don't have a parliamentary system where
Yeah,
things get passed like that. It would take so long, and we can want that long-term goal. But what about taking our numbers from, let's say, no kings and contributing to food banks, soup kitchens, taking the 10 million people and doing mass voter drives? Those are the things that we can get done in order to have a long-term plan where we actually can change the electoral system. It feels unrealistic to say that we're going to have a multi-party system within the next 20 months
yeah,
because in truth, our culture is surrounded by a two-party system. Our sports, our movies, Star Wars, everything is surrounded by this culture. That and we were talking about Adam Kinzinger and how he's not putting the money into a new party. It's because statistically and culturally it doesn't work. And so a lot of these, and I'm not saying his strategy is a great thing. I don't think his strategy is a good thing. I think a lot of Republicans that are those traditional conservatives like me and you were talking about yesterday think that we regressed when actually, and we did regress literally and metaphorically,
Yeah.
but the old Republican Party led us here. So
Yeah.
technically we moved forward, and their idea is, why don't we move forward to how the Republican Party used to be? No, we have to do away with it completely. But how realistic is that in the next 20 months? I don't think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of it is realistic in the next 20 months. And this, I think, like Derek is saying in the chat, is something that I brought up yesterday and started talking about, was the idea of progressive and regressives, rather than Republicans being conservatives, is taking some of the words, and I think that's going to be an important topic on some short-term like discussion
Yeah.
planning on how do we take messaging, how do we build taglines, how do we build mottos, how do we do the things that MAG is actually good at. Like, they're good at stuff. They flood the zone with everything. Why are we afraid to put out all of
Yeah.
our ideas out there too? Like, flood the zone for democracy. I think that's a short-term and long-term strategy. But like the idea of taking, let's say, the Republican Party, and this is where I think Adam Kinzinger could have a really big impact, is the Libertarian Party is already an established third party that is nationally recognized and can be on ballots everywhere. What's to stop Adam, who would be traditionally, I guess, considered fairly libertarian? My thought is libertarians are just progressives who haven't read enough books. And after meeting Chris Goldsmith, I said that to him, and he's like, that's actually right. It's like, after I started reading more books, I stopped being libertarian. I was like, that's all it is. Libertarians just need to read more books.
Yeah.
But I
People's
think he
history
would
of the
like,
United States.
yeah, like I think he could take an existing party. Like, there are existing party structures for the smaller third parties that fold into larger parties, like the American Worker or the Workers' Party, that Mamdani is part of,
Yeah.
or the Working People's Party, I think it is a sub party of the Democratic Party. It
Yeah.
can't run everywhere in the country, but it can run as a semi-parliamentary idea.
The
Could
what's
Adam take the libertarian side and just refix it? Like, they had so much kind of good ideas, and then they spewed out the Proud Boys. But besides that, besides the hate groups, do you think they could take over something like that, like an internal structure?
I mean, me and Gavin were talking about it yesterday, and Gavin made up a great point, and I thought about it like this, and I was like, wow, you can take the Democratic Party and you can dissect it into 40 different parties, right? You can dissect how many people are a little bit more left. I mean, it's a spectrum, and so I think that there's a huge bracket of people that are running as Democrats that think completely differently than another section. It's like a web, and the different spindles are different viewpoints in the Democratic Party. And I think because we have a culture that is surrounded by a two-party system, and it would take a long time to reform our electoral system to be multi-party, other than libertarian, which you said, which I'll get to. It's extremely difficult when there's money in politics to even reform, because they want extremist candidates because they make more money on extremist candidates.
Yes.
The DNC runs extremist candidates to make more money. And so, number one, money out of politics, that would also be getting the Supreme Court to overturn Citizens United. Libertarian, I think that he could either run Libertarian or he could run Democratic. I think his strategy is we should bring the Republican Party back to how it used to be. I think it's a terrible strategy, but I don't think that terrible strategies really mean they're a bad person or they're not useful. And I think if we encourage our leaders, if we encourage people like Adam Kinzinger to stop doing this bullshit and get on a better strategy, that's where it leads. So, Nick, I think that the libertarian thing is a great strategy, or he could run as a Democrat and we could start reforming the way we structure the Democratic Party to be a party for everyone. Because I think that people traditionally think that the Democratic Party is just for individuals like us, when it's tons of different viewpoints and tons of different paths of life. And we could make it something where it is for the people. So yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I know people have a hard time getting around, and this is sort of what we were talking about yesterday. And I was talking to Fred Pogue about this yesterday too, was people hear Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. That's all you hear. It's just Democrat, Republican. And they're toxic words. They are legacy values. They are broken institutions, and they're failures at this point. Like the National Democratic, and this is me separating the National Democratic Committee, let's say, from state parties. State Democratic parties are doing really well in a lot of places because they have been taken over by their progressive grassroots organizations and their teams, and they are building infrastructure. Look at what Virginia did. It took 10 years to make sure that they did what they did, and they instituted it. That's what happens when you put a plan in place and do it, is you win. Is like, how do we get the fucking national party out of the way in a lot of ways? Because there's only so many people that are going to be available to run for Congress and or Senate. Not federally. I understand locally, very different. Those are very different things that we can talk about in parallel, as I know local is just as, if not more important than federal races. But federal right now, because the Republicans believe in regressing from a democracy to a authoritarian regime. Ooh, I have a snake.
Cool.
I have a snake.
Awesome.
My wife is cleaning his enclosure. That must be awesome. So he's going to be hooked onto my glasses for now. So nobody freak out. I have a snake.
The democracy snake.
Democracy snake. He does not get tread on. This snake doesn't get tread on. So he's slithering for democracy, and pulling my glasses off. But that's okay. His name is Bucky the Slither Soldier Barnes. So he is aptly named for this kind of work. And the thing is, like, I'm so tired of the parties. I'm tired of the two parties that are in place, because all they do is tell you what we can't do and what we're not able to do and why we must be content with what we have. And the National Democratic Party has a 19% approval rating. Like, how do you get around that? How do you get people to come out to vote for a group that has 19% approval?
Yeah. So my thoughts are, maybe this is a little George Washington, John Adams of me, but my thoughts are, I also want to reduce infighting. And when you take a huge bracket and you dissect it into multiple different brackets, and they all vote for, when you don't have that electoral system being completely refurbished and reformed, and you take it is more than likely going to cause infighting, and we're not going to be able to pass legislation in the way that we want to pass legislation, because we have so many people that are going, nope, 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 when we could all be kind of uniform and going, this is what we want. And we're going to protect the people in this large bracket rather than protect people in certain small brackets. And I think like we have to protect the marginalized. We have to protect all people in this country. We have to protect the Constitution of the United States. And so I want to reduce infighting as well. And so I think, and we work on plurality. And I was talking about this yesterday, and I was talking to this with Shane and you, like, we almost always get reduced to a two-party system every single time because our electoral system is not reformed. Because we work on plurality, it's not majority. If you have three candidates and it's three different parties, libertarian, let's say Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, 40% for Democrat, you have like 35% Republican and 25% Libertarian. 40% would win, even though 60% of people wanted a different person.
Yeah.
And so that would it shapes the fact that only two parties end up getting the majority of votes every single time. And the way to fix that is by reforming the electoral system completely. And so I like the idea of multi-party politics, but I feel like it's out of the realm. It's out of the realm of accomplishing right now. Like,
I think I'm going to push back because that's what I definitely want your opinions on. That's why we're having this conversation. Is that Shane is saying in the chat, it's forced teaming, and that's sort of how the U.S. does it right now. Is they force team you. In a lot of states, there are closed primaries, and they only allow for two parties to run. And I think it's more on the states right now to unlock the potential for third and fourth and fifth parties to more easily run, because I think the states are limiting it in a lot of ways so that they can maintain two-party politics. But there's a couple states in our union that have more than two. They have three or four functioning parties at state level.
We have five. It's legally allowed.
Yeah, I just think the function for creating a third, fourth party is there. We're just choosing to suppress it on the federal level compared to the state level.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I'm not saying that I don't want that.
Oh, no. I definitely know you're not.
I'm saying that the system forces two parties. And even though it's like states, it's like the system forces those two parties. Because, like the voters or these large coalitions or the DNC and RNC, they don't want to waste their vote on a party that cannot win. And typically, these third parties don't win because we have an electoral system that favors and forces two parties. And so to reform all that,
that's our 20 to 50 year plan.
That's a 20 to 50 year plan.
So what is let's say, since we're talking both short and long-term plans here, 20 months. In 20 months, what would be the two most effective things that you could think of that Democrats could do to ensure long-term that something like that could happen? Because the thing is, the change has to come from within the party. If we want it to actually happen, like if we want to go to a multi-party system, both parties from within have to then break apart. And that's okay. Like we can do that. We can figure out how to get it so it's kind of coordinated that they both happen at the same time. But in the immediate 20-month future, what do you think that we should be most heavily advocating for to get our democracy like in a place where we could have real representation again?
Yeah. I agree with a lot of the individuals that were in Germany during World War II and what they say now on Tyranny, the book that you read in the book club, anti-fascist book club. I agree that we need more community. And like I said in the beginning of the live, the only thing that is going to protect us is forming basically our own government. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your video froze,
okay,
but I can still hear you.
That's a weird image to freeze on. Anyway, here, let me see if I can reload.
Oh, and he'll be back in a second. Yeah, so and this is a great thank you everyone for providing thoughts and ideas and feedback in the discussion with us. Like I know I'm going to ask Sherrod when he gets back is around voter rights and the Voting Rights Act, and thoughts on getting rid of the Electoral College, how we can do that, and how close we actually were to accomplishing something like that, which still would not have helped in this election, this past presidential election, because the Democratic Party did not win the majority of votes, so the popular vote would have still won. Is get rid of the Electoral College, or use a electoral system that is based on popular mandate, because and just solely for the president, is the president is the only office that should be by popular vote from every state, not just one or two, like not just a couple swing states. It should be the popular vote from every state, and that's just who wins. That's my opinion. To answer the question in the chat, is who's the author of On Tyranny? That's Timothy Snyder. Sorry, getting derailed. But I encourage everyone to think on the idea of encouraging, if you are in a democratically elected, if you have Democratic representatives or Democratic senators who are sort of waffling and not doing anything, it's on you as their constituent to make your voice be known and heard. And on a state level, that can be slightly different around the Electoral College stuff. Welcome back.
Sorry. I think my Wi-Fi got messed up.
Well, there's a storm nearby in our areas, so that our power flickered earlier, so it may be coming up your guys' way.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go back to what I was saying earlier, which is if we want to protect ourselves from this administration and make sure that we can fortify a long-term plan, I think that we need to have community. We need to take, like I said earlier, our numbers from No Kings. This is 10 million people that we could maybe, instead of going to, and I'm not saying that the protests aren't amazing, but maybe your way of protesting is going to a food bank. Maybe your way of protesting is volunteering. Maybe it's doing a community garden. It's filling up those gaps that the government's not filling. And that protects us from the government invoking tyranny on us, really pushing us to just fall. We don't want to fall. And if we make sure that all of us collectively are helping each other, creating our own socialistic, democracy underneath, that's going to protect us from any tyranny coming from the top. Bottom up.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's always been bottom up. Democracy is community. I've said that quite a few times, actually, is democracy is an extension of community. So build your community strong and your democracy will get stronger just by existing, because we vote every single day. We vote with our dollars, we vote with our feet, we vote with our voices. And we vote by lifting up other people's platforms and encouraging people to run for office. And if you are thinking of running for office and you have put in the paperwork and are going to run for office, talk to us. We'll platform you. We'll push back on you. Most of you all know how I talk and I interview. I'll ask you questions and push back on you. Sherrod will do the same. Shane will definitely.
Shane will kill you. He'll kill you.
Might light you on fire, but that's okay. He'll light a fire.
It's in a good way. It's in
the best ways. Yeah, Shane will light a fire under you and get you going, because that's what he does. He's a firebrand. He leads. These discussions. But if you're thinking of running, run. Go to runforsomething.net and run, or hit the QR code in the top corner of our screen, top left corner, and donate to Feeding America, and help us continue to fund our Feeding America donation campaign.
So good.
Volunteer in your community. Do all of the small things that you were taught were like important when you were growing up, about what made community special. Is go make that community. Stop waiting for other people to make it for you.
Here, I have a link that I'll share in the chat. It's called wherecanirun.org. You can actually go to that link, and it's under run for something. And basically, you put in your address, your email, your birth year, and it tells you exactly the offices you can run in your area. And so if you go to that link and you type in all that information, some of it's optional. You don't have to type in too much personal information, but you can find all the offices in your area that you can run for. So,
and the QR codes in the top left corner of the screen now is, and I'll make sure to add it in the show notes too. So everybody can go click on that link who is interested. Is there's what 300 million people in the U.S. There's 60 something. There's a couple 100 million of us who are voters, or should be voters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us in this country who are eligible to run for office who have probably thought about it at some point in their lives. Now is the time. If you have ever thought about it, I am absolutely encouraging you to go to Where Can I Run? Like that, if you want an immediate 20-month solution, you want to be part of the 20-month solution, is use whatever platform you have to flood the zone for democracy. I want to learn from some of the things that these people have done. Like, they suck. Republicans suck. Steve Bannon's pretty shitty, like one of the worst. But the tactic of flooding the zone is incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, because they throw a ton of shitty ideas out there to have them stick at the wall. Why don't we throw a ton of good ideas out there to have something stick at the wall? Like, I'd rather throw out the idea of a parliamentary democracy that we can have with multi-parties and multi-platforms across this nation, where we don't have to wait until 6 years are up or 4 years are up to remove corrupt individuals. I think that is something worth fighting for. And I think I get to use my platform to discuss that and talk about it. And if you have a voice and a platform to do it, talk about it, discuss it, work with your friends in the background, contact us, run for something. Go to Where Can I Run? That way, QR code up there. Go click on that, go scan that, and flood Nick, the zone with democracy.
If you could, there's one called, it's the National Democratic Training Committee. And they have tons of different free courses on relational organizing, how to volunteer, how to run, how to win, how to get your campaign started. It's really useful information. It's free courses. I took a ton of courses on organizing and, personal network mapping and field. So I think a lot of people would get use out of that.
Yeah, and I just put it up in the corner too. It's called traindems.org. And what that is fighting from within the system and within the current political power structure to get what we want. If we want to have a multi-party system with, say, more parliamentary style representation, with a largely expanded House of Representatives, which I think could be part of a 20-month plan. That's an easy change. That's just a law. It's just an arbitrary number that Congress set in the 40s, 1940s, almost 100 fucking years ago, people. 80 years ago, we decided that we were going to set the number of Congress to what it is today.
Nick,
that's just a law. Nowhere in the Constitution says we can't change that number.
What do you think about locking the filibuster in, other than for emergencies? That's just my question to you, because there's so much talk during the shutdown of abolishing the filibuster.
Let me think about that.
Yeah.
before I give you a good answer, because I think um,
because it's Senate
the
rules.
Senate requires a lot of extra discussion and changes. But I think the most impactful things we can do immediately, I think Senate is part of a 20 to 50 year plan of restructuring,
Yeah.
rebuilding, and changing. Um, but I think the most immediate and the most impactful things we could do are really around expanding the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And so Lawrence Winterman and I talked a little bit about this the other day, or last week, and he gave me a fairly precise number, because there's a very good like mathematical equation that has been identified that says specifically how much percentage of the population you should have as representatives in a House of Representatives, parliamentary, whatever you want to call it, style system. In the US right now, based on our population, it should be about 750 representatives. I think we could easily advocate for that to change the law. And I think what it would also have a downstream immediate impact on is it would hyper target gerrymandering in a
Yeah.
way that
That's
is
the biggest thing.
inescapable to create districts that are fair. And I think everybody could get behind that. Like, people are tired of not being represented by their representatives. Well, then we force them to just add more. Just add enough so that we have real representation and they can't cheat. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that as a shorter term goal? Is like action point start advocating for increasing the size of the House of Representatives to a really legitimate proportional number to our population?
I think that or just any solution to gerrymandering is going to be a big thing, because the whole reason it's capped at 435 is because they started gerrymandering and redistricting to make sure it's even for population, and that really hurts people in a multitude of different communities. So I think that is something we can advocate for, or just advocate for an end to gerrymandering in a certain way. Um, and I want to address a comment or seeing on the live. Patrick said, "Did you get my early messages on this strategy earlier in the chat about siphoning a third of Democrats in name and flooding the zone for an independent candidate?" Yeah. So, Patrick, yeah, what we're talking about basically is how it would be difficult to do that under the system that we currently hold. And even though we have a future want for third parties to work, it is really difficult to siphon certain brackets away from the main bracket, and then we aren't able to actually get anything done because the system forces two parties, and the system doesn't work for us. The system's a terrible system.
Okay,
And
so here's an idea.
yeah,
I know the libertarian wing kind of sucks
yeah.
on pretty often on the Republican Party. What say we because they caucus
I know where you're going.
separately from the Republican Party. They choose to align with the Republican Party. What happens if Adam Kinzinger comes and wins the chair of the Libertarian Party, doesn't run for office, but becomes the chair of, say, the Libertarian Party, and then caucuses with Democrats?
See,
They don't have to be
that's how we
Democratic,
can do it.
but they
That's how we can do it.
caucus.
Nick, that's a great idea, because we see Bernie Sanders independent, he caucuses with
Mhm.
Democrats. Imagine that on a large scale.
With a
Democrats would
full
be able
party that's already there.
and Democrats would be able to get so much more done because there's more brackets. There's more
Yeah.
brackets under the whole thing. We have the Libertarian, we have all the people in the Democratic Party, we have the Social Democrats, we have that would be really spectacular for us,
So
I think.
here's what happens is, if you create a, let's say, uniparty, is what they've,
Mm,
evil
mhm.
word, uniparty, that spans the entire political ideological spectrum, you no longer have a uniparty. You just have a party that has different wings
And
that will
eventually it's
caucus
easier.
separately, and they
Mhm.
eventually break themselves apart into
And
sub
that's the
parties.
20-50 year plan, because
20,
eventually they
50-year
will
plan. Yeah.
eventually they'll start to break themselves apart. That's just a natural progression of this uniparty. I think that that's a
Hmm.
great idea. I think that the more, I think that's what we're seeing though. We're seeing social democrats. We're seeing, and I think we can have it be on a larger scale if we encourage these people that are breaking apart from MAGA to do their own. The people
Because
that
you were
we,
talking about it, it's a horseshoe. It's like
yeah,
what's easier on the horseshoe of political party alignment or political party structure? Because we're going through a political realignment in America right now. It is not
yeah,
stopping, no matter what the fuck anybody wants to say. It is happening. There is a political realignment happening right now. How
mhm.
do we make it work to our advantage? Part of that is we have to take the existing parties that are there, the existing sub parties, and make them and encourage them to caucus with the Democratic Party.
We have to play the game to win the game, and
Yes.
right now the game doesn't
And
work
we have to
for
play
us,
it to win
and
too,
it's like
not just play it.
we can't just create a new game and go, well, the old game doesn't work. It's like we have to play the game and reform the code, and that's what we're doing so that we can have a better shot and a better America. And I think that's what Nick and Senator
Are you
America.
able to go a little longer than an hour? Do you have some time to just keep
Ooh,
talking?
I have Shane's live right
Oh,
after,
okay.
but
Okay, perfect. I don't want to take away from Shane's live.
yeah, but this is a great conversation. I'm glad we brainstormed that because
Dude, yeah, I'm so glad we got to this point too
yeah,
before the end because this is a short-term goal. Like a
yeah,
short-term 20-month goal is get the Libertarian Party to caucus with the Democratic Party. I think we should be advocating or even some other party that's already an existing structure that is able to be nationally recognized and caucuses currently with the Republicans is get former Republicans to take over that wing and do the MAGA thing over just but caucus into the Democratic Party. Like I
yeah,
the Tea Party moment. Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh could help a Tea Party moment in the Democratic Party, which would basically be take over the Libertarian Party and caucus it with Democrats.
exactly. Such a good idea.
Like,
And we can't infight. We can't purity test. Like we have to. We
and this
have
isn't
to.
forgiving them.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not
not
part of the
forgiving.
Democratic Party. They're just caucusing with us. And
They
that's a distinction I think we can allow them to make too is you don't have to become a Democrat to caucus with the Democratic Party and just fall under the big umbrella. Like nobody cares about the National Party. Fuck them. You can just caucus with us and call yourself a libertarian Democrat.
yeah. And then that keeps accountability. It also shows that their actions are aligning with people that if they actually do want to protect marginalized groups, like I think that that would probably be the easiest scenario to get done within a 20-month period. I want to reach out to Adam Kinzinger
I'm going
and
to reach out to Evan Fields on this too.
then I
And
will me and Gavin are going to plan to go to the Principals First Summit, the second one or the next one in February, and I'm hoping that he'll be there and we can strike up a conversation. So, yeah, this is great.
awesome. I'm so glad we had this talk today. And I know we're just about out of time, so you can get to Shane's show. It is, as always, I want, sorry, as I try and hold back a hiccup. As always, is sell yourself. I want people to know where they can find you, how they can support Centered America, and just a quick blurb so people know where to support your work and how to get in touch with you guys.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
hold on, let me switch over to your QR
Oh,
code.
don't worry about it.
There we go.
All
Now
right.
sell yourself.
Hi, my name is Sherrod Swaney. I'm the director of Centered America. If you're new to me and seeing me on these lives, please go and subscribe to Centered America. We are a pro-democracy. We're defending democracy, resisting authoritarianism, giving resources back to the people. We do just our news bulletins every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, so that you're informed on what's going on. I think that's a big part of defending democracy and being pro-democracy, is knowing exactly what's going on, having the information and facts to be able to talk about it, to be able to defend your side. And defend the Constitution. And so we also do veterans care packages, packages for marginalized communities. We are donating to Feeding America. We are doing just a ton of work, and it'd be great. You can also look at our website, centeredamerica.org, for more information. Thank you so much. It's great to be on.
Yeah, it's so good to have you, my friend. Please support Centered America. I do. I'm a paid subscriber with them. I absolutely encourage people to become paid subscribers with them, because the work they're doing is really important. And I get to have discussions with them. So I like the guys. They're doing great stuff. Please help the work that they're doing so they can help more of us. And then help me here too at Sick of This Shit Publications. Join me as a paid sub. That helps me stabilize and build the network. Join me as a founding sub if you want to. I offered those, slightly more expensive per year, but you also get a commission poem out of it. I still owe some people some poems, and you guys will help me be able to eventually buy in or pay for an assistant to help me do some of the scheduling and all the tool development and stuff like that. So please become a paid sub with me here at Sick of This Shit Publications, and join Sheridan and me for our next live together. We talk every Wednesday on Banner and Backbone, and I'm going to have him back for more of these discussions because I think we can make a huge impact and make them really quickly with this type of possibility and avenue of approach. We got to be creative, and we're done being sick of this shit, so we're doing this shit. So thanks everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see y'all soon.
See you guys.